Dear students, good afternoon all of you. In this lecture I am going to teach you the concept of inverse of a matrix. So today you are going to learn what is called the inverse of a matrix, and then let us discuss a method for finding the inverse of a given matrix, right? Suppose we are given A and B, the two matrices of same order. Then if the two matrices satisfy the condition, the product AB is equal to the product BA is equal to I, then we say that the two matrices are inverses to each other. So what do you mean by inverses to each other? The two matrices are, suppose A and B are any two non-singular matrices of the same order, and it is possible that AB is equal to BA is equal to I. Then we say that the two given matrices are inverses to each other, or otherwise we can also say that if the matrix A is given and the condition is satisfied with other matrix B, that B is called the inverse of the given. Similarly, suppose B is given and the condition is satisfied for some matrix A, then we say that A is the inverse of the B. So because when the condition is satisfied, the two matrices are inverses to each other. Now let us see how with a given matrix A, what is the method? Suppose we are given a matrix A, how can we find out the corresponding inverse? Using the well-known method called Gauss-Jordan method. This Gauss-Jordan method, I hope you are all familiar with this method in your lower classes, right? So this Gauss-Jordan method, as you all know, can also be called as elementary row transformations method. So what is the other name of the Gauss-Jordan method? Elementary row transformations method. Because in this method, we apply the sequence of row operations on the given matrix A to find its inverse. The advantage of using this method is we can easily determine the inverse of a given matrix of more than order 3 using this method very easily. That is the reason we focus on this Gauss-Jordan method for finding the inverse of the given matrix, and that we are going to learn today in this class. And before we learn the method, let me tell you what are called elementary transformations, right? We have in general two types of elementary transformations. If they are applied on the rows, they can be called elementary row transformations. If we apply them on the columns, they are called elementary column transformations. Elementary transformations can be given the other name also, elementary operations. Elementary transformations and elementary operations both are the same. If applied on rows, we call them by the name row. If they are applied on the columns, we call them by the name column. Now let us see in basic now what are elementary transformations or operations. Let us see first. In general, we have three types of elementary transformations. The first one is, we have three types of elementary transformations or operations. We have three types. The first type is interchange of rows or columns from the given matrix. Suppose the given matrix is having 1, 0, 9, the elements 2, 4, 5 and 1, 2, 6. We have three rows here. This is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3. We have three columns here, C1, C2, C3. By our first elementary transformation, we can interchange any two rows or any two columns of the given matrix. That is the first transformation. And the second one is multiplication of a row or column by a non-zero scalar, means a constant. Suppose we select the row 1 and we choose a non-zero scalar some 2 value. We can multiply with 2 each element of this row 1 and can again place in the same row. Or else otherwise we can also choose a column We may multiply this column, each element of the column with a non-zero constant and then again place in the same column. That is the meaning of the second elementary transformation. So what is our second one? The first one is to interchange. The interchange of rows and columns. The second one is multiplication of each element of a row or column by a non-zero scalar or a constant. Now coming to the third one. The first one is interchange of rows. The second one is multiplication of a row with a constant k which is non-zero. Now the third one is addition to a row, a non-zero scalar multiple of a non-zero scalar multiple of any other row or column. So addition to a row or column, we have to say here a row or column. So addition to a row or column, a non-zero scalar multiple of any other row or column. Right? So interchange of row or column is the first one. Multiplication of a row or column with a constant k not equal to 0 is the second transformation. And addition to a row or column, each element of a row or column, a non-zero scalar multiple of any other row or column. So these are the three elementary transformations or the elementary operations. When the operations are taken over the rows, these are called as elementary row operations. These are called as elementary row operations. If they are applied on the columns, they are called as elementary column operations. Now in symbolic form, let us represent each of these elementary transformations. Coming to elementary row operations, suppose we want to interchange the two rows, row I and row j. The representation is Ri implies and implied by Rj. It indicates that ith row and jth row are interchanged. Right? Similarly, the corresponding column transformation is column Ci interchanged with the column Cj. Now coming to the second transformation, it is regarding the multiplication of a row column with k not equal to 0. It is represented by row I implies k into row I, where this k is not equal to 0. It means that we can multiply each element of an ith row by a non-zero constant k and place the resulting elements in the same ith row. The corresponding column transformation is Ci implies k into Cj. Each element of jth column multiplied by k and the result is placed in the ith column itself. Now coming to the third transformation, it is about the addition of a row or column with a non-zero scalar multiple of any other row or column. This is represented by Ri implies Ri plus k into Rj. It means that first we have to multiply each element of the jth row by a constant k and then add that krj to the corresponding element of the ith row. Then the total has to be placed in the ith row. Am I clear? Now the same when applied on the columns, it is represented by Ci implies Ci plus k into Cj, wherein it should be understood as each element of the jth column multiplied by k and added to each element of the corresponding element of the ith column. The total is placed in the ith column. So these three are the representations of elementary transformations over rows and these are over columns. Now the reason for discussing all these elementary transformations on rows and columns is using the elementary row operations in particular, we may will become very easy to calculate the inverse of a given matrix provided it has order more than 3. Right? We already have the several other methods for finding inverse of a matrix. Like we have adjoint method. You might all be knowing about that in your lower classes, wherein we calculate A inverse equal to adjoint of A by det A. And we have another method called Cramer's rule or method of determinants. It also, about that also you are all familiar with. But those two have some, they have some restrictions. They are not feasible with the higher order matrices. Therefore, this new method has come up wherein we can calculate easily the inverse of a given matrix for higher order matrices. That is the advantage of using this method, and with the same reason we are going to learn now what is the Gauss-Jordan method and how by the Gauss-Jordan method we can apply the inverse of a given matrix by taking examples, right? Let me now explain you what is the process we follow in the Gauss-Jordan method, which is also called as elementary row transformation method. So we are looking forward the procedure of Gauss-Jordan method, which is also called elementary row operations method. Let me discuss the method first. Suppose that we are given a matrix A. What we do, first we write this A in the form of A is equal to I into A. That is our first step. In the next step, what we do is we choose a sequence of row operations. Each of these row operations are applied on the left hand side A and the right hand side prefactor I, which is an identity matrix. Now, as a result, this left hand side here reduces to a new matrix, identity matrix, and this right hand side reduces to a new matrix which is non-identity matrix. This is B into A remains the same. So what is happening here? After having the given matrix A, we write it as A equal to IA. Then we apply a sequence of row operations on both the left hand side and the right hand side. We continue the process as long as this left hand side here reduces to an identity matrix. This right hand side reduces to a new matrix B. Now the resulting form is I equal to BA, from which we can say that the inverse of the given matrix is the matrix B from the presentation, from the form we have got in the process. So this is called the elementary row operations method or the Gauss-Jordan method for finding the inverse of a given matrix. Clear? Yes? So now let me explain you by taking an example how to get the inverse. Let us choose the matrix A. Suppose that the first row is 109, the second row is 245, the third row is 1, 2, 6. For this matrix, let us learn to find, let us apply the method, Gauss-Jordan method, and find what is the inverse. Now, according to our method, first we consider the form as A equal to IA. We rewrite. We have A 109, 245, 126. And on the right hand side we have identity matrix 100, 010, 001. Yes, are you following? So we have just replaced the given matrix here on the left hand side. The identity matrix of order 3 has been chosen here because the given matrix is of order 3, and at the last on the right side we put simply A. We need not replace the entries. Right? Now we choose based on these diagonal elements, also called the pivots. For example, we have the first pivot is here 1. Using this first pivot, we make the remaining elements of the column 0 using row operations. The same we follow with the second and third diagonal, also called the second and third pivots. That is our process. So, because our first pivot is 1, using this 1, we are going to choose the elementary transformations, row transformation, so that the remaining of the same column 2 and 1 becomes 0. So look at this 2. This 2 belongs to row 2. So to make it 0, using this 1. First this 1 has to be multiplied by 2. So we are changing in row 2 to make it 0. To use this 1. So what we are doing? we keep this 2 as it is. Excuse me. So this is 2, R2 minus 2 into 1 we are doing, and 2 into R1 we are doing. Right? Similarly, to make this 1 which is in R3 starting 0, we use the transformation R3 minus R1 in order to use this first pivot. So R3 implies R3 minus R1. When the two operations are applied on both the left and the right hand side refractor, let us see what is our resulting expression. First, left hand side. Left hand side, let us see. We have the first row, the same 109, 100. Now second row. It is 2 minus 2 into 1 becomes 0. It is a 4 minus 2 into 0. 4. It is a 5 minus 2 into 9. It is a 5 minus 18 minus 13. On the other side, it is 0 minus 2 into 1. Minus 2. 1 minus 2 into 0. We have minus 2. We have 1 minus 2 into 0. We have 1. Next, it is 0 minus 2 into 0. It is 0. Now the third row. It is R3 implies R3 minus R1. The element is 0. Next, it is 2 minus 0, 6 minus 9. So 2 minus 3. Similarly, on the other side, we have 0 minus 1, 0 minus 0, 1 minus 0. This is our first round of the method. Now we concentrate on the focus on the second pivot. That is our second diagonal element. It is a 4. So what we are going to do now? Using this 4, we are going to choose a row transformation so that the remaining two elements of the same column become 0. Already one of the elements in the row 1 is 0 in the same column. So we look at the row 3 element in the second column. It is 2. So it belongs to row 3. So row 3 has to be changed. So R3 implies. In order to use this 4, to make it 4, I am multiplying this row 3 by 2. So it is 2 R3 become 4 here. Minus 4. It is minus R2. Only one row operation. Applying this over both the left and right hand sides. The left hand side. It is first row 109, 100 the same. Second row. It does not change. So 0, 4 minus 13 minus 2, 1, 0 the same. Row 3 only we have changed. So it is 2 zeros minus 0. So 0. It is 0. It is 2 into minus 3. We have minus 6. Minus 13. Minus of minus 13. It is plus 13. So total we are going to have plus 7. So it is 7 here. Similarly on the right hand side we have 2 times of R3. 2 into minus 1. We have minus 2. Minus of minus 2. It is plus 2 becomes 0 here. Next it is 2 zeros. 0 minus 1. So minus 1. Next it is 2 into 1 here. Because it is 2 R3. So 2 into 1. 2. Minus R2 means 0. So it is 2 here. This is our second round of the method. Now the third round is concentrating on the third pivot, which is our third diagonal element. It is 7 here. So using this 7, we appropriately choose the set of row transformations so that the remaining column elements become 0. So we have to now make this 9 and minus 13 0 using this 7. Right. So now to make this 9 0 belongs to row 1. So we have row 1 implies. We are going to use this 7. So what we do, we multiply this 9 with 7. So it is 7 into R1 becomes 63 minus. We have to multiply this row 3 by 9. So become minus 63. So 9 R3. So what is the row operation? On row 1 we are going to have 7 R1 minus 9 R3. So that we get 7 into 9 minus 9 into 7. 63 minus 63, we are going to get 0 here. Similarly, to make this minus 13 0, which is in R2. So what we do? We multiply it first by 7. So it is 7 into R2, having opposite sign, so become the middle side plus. Next it is 13 times of R3. Using these two operations on both the left and right hand sides. We have the row 1 first. We have 7R1 minus 9R3. It is 7 into 1 here, 7. Minus 9 into 0, it is 0. Next again both are zeros, we have 0 once again. Next 9 we made it 0 by our process. Right? First we finish off this left hand side. Second row. It is 7 into R2. It is 0. Again both 0, so we have 0 here in the second place. The second row starting place. Next it is 7 into row 2, 7 into R2 plus 13 R3. So 7 4s are 28 here plus 13 R3 is 0. Next it is minus 30. We made it 0 by our choice of this row transformation. And the last row is not changing here. We did not apply any row transformation. So it remained the same 0 0 0. Doing the same to applying the same on the right side, we have row 1. 7R1 minus 9R3. R3 has 0. So it is 7 into R1, 7. We have 7R1, 7 zeros minus 9 into minus 1. It is plus 9. We have 7 zeros minus 9 into 2. It is minus 18. Coming to the second row on the right side, we have 7R2. It is 7 times of minus 2. Minus 14 plus 13 into 0. So we have minus 14. Next we have 7 times of 1. 7. It is 7 plus 13 into minus 1. We have minus 13. We have minus 6. Next we have 0. 7 into 0. 0 plus 13 into 2. We have 26. The last row does not change. It remains the same. Okay. Now we have got on the left hand side a diagonal matrix. Now we make it an identity matrix by choosing again R1 divided by 7 to make it 1, R2 divided by 28, next R3 divided by 7. And as a result, we will get on the right hand side and also on the left hand side what we are going to get. On the left hand side we are going to get 1 0 0, 0 1 0, 0 0 1, which is nothing but I3. On the right hand side what we are going to get? With the division we are going to get a new matrix here. Let it be capital B and into A. The form is I3 equal to BA. We have got the form I3 equal to BA, where B is equal to first row divided by 7. So it is 1, 9 by 7 minus 18 by 7. Second row by 28. So it is minus 14 by 28. Third row by 7 we have 0, minus 1 by 7, 2 by 7. So this is going to be our required inverse of the given matrix. So this is how we calculate the inverse of the given matrix for a given matrix, for whatever the given matrix is. Let us again review over this. We are given a matrix A. First we consider the form A equal to IA. Then we gradually, sequentially focus on the different pivots or the diagonal elements. First focusing on this first pivot. We choose suitably the two row operations so that the remaining of the column 0. Thereby the form reduces to this new form. Again this is the end of the first round we say. Now we concentrate on the second pivot. Using this, we choose appropriate row operation so that the remaining elements of the column becomes 0. So we made it here. This is the end of the second step. Now after that, we concentrate on the third pivot. Using this, we select appropriately the row operations so that the remaining elements of the column are 0. We made it here. And this is the end of the third step. And because the left hand side is now a diagonal matrix, to make it identity matrix, we have again chosen the row divisions, and accordingly we have got the form I3 equal to B into A, wherein we call this B equal to the inverse of the given matrix. And this is our required inverse of the given matrix using Gauss-Jordan method. Let me explain another problem. In the same method. let me choose the matrix A. Suppose that A is equal to, first row is 2, 3, 4, second row 4, 3, 1, third row is 1, 2, 4. Right? Let us again apply the same method for finding the inverse of this matrix also. Let us apply. Already the first problem is, we took it as the 3 by 3 matrix. The second also have chosen to be 3 by 3 because if we choose 4 by 4 matrix now, it become difficult, you may get confused. Therefore, to make it more easier, to make you understand the method more easier, I took the second example also with the same 3 by 3 order, and after that later on we can have the higher order, the 4 by 4, 5 by 5 matrices, and apply the same method for finding the inverse. So let us now concentrate on this. Because A is given in the starting step, what we do? We suppose that A is equal to I into A. So what is our I? The matrix has order 3 by 3. So I is of order 3 by 3. 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. Now, what is our A? What we are going to do? We are going to change the left hand side into an identity matrix, thereby changing the right hand side prefactor into a new matrix B. And how can we do all that? By applying step by step a set of row operations. Every time concentrating on the pivots, provided they are non-zero. If the diagonals are non-zero, only then we can have the continuous process. Once if in any problem one of the diagonal or more of the diagonals are zeros, then what we have to do? We have to go with the interchange of rows, so that we make the required pivot non-zero and then we apply the same process, right? So again the given first pivot is non-zero here, which is 2. Using these 2, we choose appropriately the corresponding row operations to make this 4 and 1 zeros. 4 belongs to row 2. So row 2 implies, already it is 4 here. So I am taking R2 here, minus. We multiply this 2 by 2. So we have 2 into R1. Next R3 is 1. So R3 implies, to make this one using this 2, this one has to be first multiplied by 2. So it is 2 into 1. So 2 into R3 become 2 minus. We take 2 from the row 1 to R3 minus 4. Using these 2 over the left matrix here and the right side prefactor I, what we get? The left hand side is 2, 3, 4. No change. The right hand side is 1, 0, 0. Now using this R2 implies R2 minus 2 R1. We have 4 minus 2 into 2, 0. 3 minus 2 into 3, 3 minus 6 minus 3. 1 minus 2 into 4, 1 minus 8, it is minus 7. Doing the same on the right side, we have 0 minus 2 into 1, we have minus 2, 1 minus 2 into 0, 1, both zeros, so we have 0. Now R3 is R2, R3 minus R1. So 2 into 1 minus 2, so 0. 2 2's minus 3, 4 minus 3, 1. 2 4's 8 minus 4. On the right side also, we have 2 zeros minus 1. We have 2 zeros minus 0. 2 ones minus 0. This is called the end of the first one. Wherein, using the first pivot, the remaining column elements have made zeros. Right? Now we focus on the second pivot. It's non-zero. No need of row interchange here. Yes? So we have what we do? Using this minus 3, we choose appropriately, suitably the corresponding row operations in order to make the row 1 element 3 and the row 3 element 1 0. To make this 3 0, which is in R1. R1 implies, using this minus 3 we are going to make this 3 0. So direct addition will give us 0. So what we do? It is R1 implies R1 plus R2. And what is for the third row? R3 implies is already 1. We make it 3. It is better if we make it 3. On addition with R2 it becomes 0. So it is 3 times of R3 plus R2. Now using these two row operations on either side. So what we get? On either side when we use the two row operations, the left hand side is the left hand side. It is R1 is R1 plus R2. So 2 plus 0, 3 minus 3, it is 0. 4 minus 7, it is minus 3. Similarly on the right side, it is 1 minus 2, 0 plus 1, 0 plus 0. Now coming to the row 3, R2 does not change. So we copy the R2 elements. It is minus 2, 1, 0 on the right side. Now changing the row 3. It is 3R3 plus R2. It is 3R3 plus R2. So it is with the zeros. 0. It is becoming 0. Next it is 3 times of 4. It is 12. 12 minus 7. So what is our 12 minus 7? It is a 5. Right? Now coming to the right side, we have 3 times of minus 1. Minus 3. Minus 3 plus minus 2. It is minus 3 minus 2. Minus 5. Next we have 3 times of 0. 0 plus R2 will take 1. It is 3 times of 2, we have 6 plus 0, we have 6. Right? This is the end of the second row. So we have completed the first column as required in the identity matrix. The second column as required in the identity matrix. Only the thing we have to do is after getting the diagonal matrix, we make the diagonals all equal to 1. Right? Now focusing on the third pivot because it is non-zero. We choose the row operations on row 1 and row 2. So row 1 implies and row 3 implies right. So what for we are changing row 1 and row 3? To make this minus 3 and minus 7 zeros using this pivot 5. Okay. So row 1 changes, let us do. It is minus 3 here. We have to use this 5. There are different values, right? So we multiply this minus 3 by 5 first. So we get 5 into R1. We get minus 15. Because we have the opposite sign, we make plus, we do addition. And now we multiply this 5 with 3. It becomes 3R3. So it is 5 into minus 3, minus 15. Plus 3 into 5, 15. Minus 15 plus 15. We are going to get 0 here. Similarly, along R3. No, we are doing changes in the R2. So to make this minus 7, 0. So what we do, we multiply with 5 that minus 7 which is in R2, 5R2 plus, we have 7 R3. Using these two row operations on either side, first on the left hand side let us fill in, left hand side. We are changing row 1, 5R1 plus 3R3, R3 has 0, 5 into R1 it is 5 to 10. Next we have zeros, 2 zeros here in row 1 and row 3, so 0 here. Next, for making this 0, we have chosen this, it is 0. Now the second row, 5 into R2 plus 7 into R3, it becomes 0. This minus 3, it is a 5 into minus 3, minus 15, R3 has 0. It is a 5 into minus 7, we have minus 35. And we made it 0 now, by our choice of row transformation. Right? And row 3 is not changed, so it is 0, 0, 5. Doing the same two row operations on the prefactor also. So we have R1 is 5R1 plus 3R3. 5 times of minus 1, minus 5 plus 3 times of minus 5, minus 15. Minus 5 minus 15, it is minus 20. Next it is 5 into 1, 5. 5 into 1, 5 plus 3 into 1. 5 plus 3 we have 8. 5R1 5 plus 3R3 also 3, so 5 plus 3 8. Next we have both the zeros in R1 0 we have and R3 is 6. So we have 3 into R3, 3 into 6 we have 18. Coming to the second row, 5R2 plus 7R3. So 5 into minus 2 we have minus 10 plus 7 into minus 5 we have minus 35. So total we have minus 45. Next we have 5 into 1, 5 plus 1 into 7, 5 plus 7, 12. We have 5 times of 0, 0 plus 7 times of 6, it is 42. The last row does not change, minus 1, 5, 6. This is the end of the third step. We have got the diagonal matrix now on the right side. So we make these diagonal elements equal to 1 by taking the row transformations. R1 divided by 10, R2 divided by minus 15 and R3 divided by 5. And as a result, the left hand side becomes an identity matrix I3. The right hand side reduces to a matrix B into A. We have started with the form A equal to I into A. Using the sequence of row operations, only row operations, we have arrived at I is equal to BA. And therefore now we can say that because A is given, we say that the inverse of A is the matrix B in the final form. And what is our B here? It is row 1 divided by 10. So minus 20 by 10, it is minus 2. Next 8 by 10, 18 by 10. Second row, it is minus 45 by minus 15, it is 3. Next it is 12 by minus 15, 42 by minus 15. Third row by 5. So it is minus 1. It is 1 by 5, 6 by 5. And this is our inverse of the given matrix. I hope you all understood how the inverse of a matrix is obtained using the Gauss-Jordan method. And also, as we have discussed here, you all have recollected the previous already known topic, the definition of the inverse of a matrix. So what you should remember here from the class, you must be able to define how the inverse of a matrix is defined. Then what is the inverse of a matrix, how the process, what is the method, Gauss-Jordan method for finding the inverse of a given matrix. I hope you all understood the process and you can apply in any number of matrices you have. So at home you try the same method with one 3 by 3 matrix and one 4 by 4 matrix. You will be able to solve it, no doubt in that, right? Thank you one and all.